Well, welcome to Anxiety Simplified. This is Joanne Williams, and I have a special guest today. I'm going to introduce in a moment, Crystal Home, and we're really sharing what I consider some compelling strategies, some that I have learned from my 30 years as a mental health professional with my clients that they have received with great success that I hope that will help you, your family, and make your life just a little easier and have less anxiety with more confidence. So, Crystal, I'm going to tell you a little bit about Crystal. She really understands entrepreneurial challenges. Because she is the founder of Designed Life Studio and the creator of the Designed Life model, but she grew up with a lot of physical and mental and emotional abuse and was told she would never amount to anything. Any listeners ever heard that before? Well, and then in 2016, she suffered a severe work comp injury that left her unable to walk. And she could no longer work and was basically left to fend for herself, facing the rest of her life in a wheelchair. But she began doing yoga, hatha yoga, every day to heal her body and get her life back. And she used her knowledge of feng shui. So we're going to hear more about that. In this podcast, I am calling Declutter Your Life, Success Rituals and $1 million Habits, because that is what she has used as she's learned this practice of feng shui. And we're going to hear more about these things that she really used with intention as she created a self-care space that would energize her and boost her results and help her heal faster. And she was able to get herself unstuck physically, emotionally, and mentally and heal her body and grew a successful business in the process. And today she feels that she has developed her framework, the Design Life method, and helps her clients to do the same, to transform their lives so that you can do it too, as she can now walk and be fully functional as a business owner. So welcome, Crystal. I really can't wait to hear more about your journey and what has made you stronger and a successful businesswoman, with able to have this proprietary framework, the Designed Life method, that you have helped your clients design spaces and live life. So please share more about, why you did this or what is most important to you. So welcome.
I guess I've always wanted to be proud of who I was. Like I've always wanted to like myself. I've always wanted
Mhm.
to feel like I did something that mattered. I've always wanted to be somebody I was proud of, I guess. And
Yeah.
that was sort of the driving force that has always been the through line of everything,
Yeah.
really, is to feel like I mattered. I never felt like I mattered when I was a child. So definitely wanted to, I had that feeling.
So you gave it to yourself. That is one of the strategies I would use with clients because a lot of times we really are meant to get some self-worth and self-esteem from the outside first, from our parents, from our families, from society. And when we don't get that, we've got to do it ourselves.
Mhm.
So it sounds like that's what you're talking about. You really had to give it to yourself, and you were hurt. So you were in pain as you did this. So what was that like, being even told you'd be in a wheelchair?
Well, when I first got hurt, it was a big battle, right? It was like me against this giant insurance company, and
Mm.
it really took its toll on me. It very much felt a lot like I felt very powerless, very helpless, and very worthless, to be
Mm.
honest. Every time my doctor would try to send me to to another doctor, to get diagnosed and all of these things, it was always just no, no, no. And I felt like I was just a bottom line. Like it didn't matter to anybody that this was my life. Like they were just worried about their $100 doctor appointment. And so it felt very uphill. Like it
Mm-hmm.
just felt the bottom. And like I was all alone. Like nobody was going to be able to help me. Not that nobody wanted to, because there was a few people that were in my corner, but it was very much like the big guy saying, yeah, no, you don't. Anybody that tried to help was gotten rid of very quickly. So I felt very alone and very much like I was going to have to figure it out.
Well, and this kind of sounds like what you were talking about in your family. So it was almost like a reenactment of a lot of those feelings.
Oh, it did bring up a lot of that stuff too, and very much so. Like I didn't, it kind of, it almost sort of lit the fire, right? Like I am not
That.
worthless, I am not
Uh-huh.
worthless. And sort of the F you, back to them of, well, I don't really care what you think. I am not going to let you determine my fate. And
Yeah.
so it was me fighting back, right? Fighting for my
Yeah.
own life, fighting for
Yeah.
my own worth. And it kind of developed into the whole thing. I'd always wanted to have a business up until then. And I knew what I was doing as far as like being an interior designer, being a feng shui master. I knew how to do all of those things. I didn't really know how to be a business owner yet, but
Mm-hmm.
so there was that part of the journey.
And that's fine. And this is about your journey. And that's what I was asking about. But you just kind of named it. It's like that fire, that moment that they said, no, you're going to be in a wheelchair or what? And you're like, no, I'm not. I don't know how, but I'm going to do it.
Right. And up until that point, I'd learned feng shui from a very technical standpoint kind of thing. Like I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't as fully embodied and immersed
Yeah.
into it. Like it wasn't that it had changed something inside of me. And at that point was like, okay, I'm going to apply what I know because I have a vision and I have a goal and I am on purpose. And before that, it had
Yes.
always just been sort of like well, let's do what the book says, right? The technical side of here's all the calculations and here's what's off and let me fix it. But I had never really looked at the actual relationship yet, like with my space, my relationship with my space and the energy and how those two things interacted with one another. Like it was up until that point, even with clients that I had taken on before then, they were a great deal of my learning curve in understanding all of this part. But I hadn't yet really looked at what was going on. And so it was as I started that start of the journey when I started doing yoga, and that's where I started really developing my own framework, right? I created a space almost like an engine. One of the things that I had learned from a very young age was about magic, really, about the power of energy and how it works. I was introduced to that when I was about 9 years old. And so it was something that I had always studied and I always understood, which had a great deal to do with why I was drawn to feng shui. But it was at this point where I really was going to use my space as like an engine, as a 3D vision board, not just a picture
Mhm.
on the wall, but more like getting the energy moving in alignment with what I wanted out of life, right? Not just it's flowing and life is still happening to me, more like I'm now driving the engine and it's going where I want it to go and using my space that way. And so that was a big shift for me. That was a big part
Sure.
of my own transformation, even in going from being your average feng shui consultant to more of what I do now, where it's like, nope, we're not just plunking down band-aids and trying to remedy the space. We're trying to turn the space into an actual like 3D vision board to manifest the life that you're trying to manifest. And I sort of applied
And
it to me.
good. And then I also hear in this, and you understood, and I want to hear more about the 9-year-old that understood about energy, but it's like, and then you knew how to move energy then through the world, through the space that you're creating. So there's a lot more to this than, like, I always thought you were going to say plunk down a plant here or a lamp or a couch there, so that you were able to really understand the inner workings of space and energy and movement then.
Hmm. Hmm. Right, because that's what the average feng shui solutions are. It's just that's the band-aid. Here's your plant, here's your water, here's this element and that element. But until you look at the big picture and look at all of what's flowing through the space, those remedies aren't going to solve anything until you look at the connection, right? So
So
yeah.
I'm gonna kind of play devil's advocate here a little bit.
Mhm.
So I want you to come in. I want you to make my space pretty.
Okay.
And you're so far beyond that. But I can hear somebody just saying, well, I've heard about feng shui, and I know you put stuff here and there, but I just want you to make it look pretty. And I can imagine, I don't know, what would you say to that?
That's the goal.
Oh, okay.
That's the ultimate goal. There's a lot of misinformation out there around feng
Yeah,
shui,
that's what I
and
want you
a
to talk
lot of
about.
and a lot of people think it's just about this, put a mirror here or an I Ching coin or a this or that, and mostly when you see those, that should be a huge red flag that that's not even real feng shui.
Okay, there's a
If
hint,
you
people.
Yeah, if you see something like that, run the other direction, because that is not what real feng shui looks like. Real feng shui, there's only 5 elements that we use to correct the flow of energy in a space, and they should blend seamlessly in with a beautifully decorated space. So, yeah, the goal
It
is to
is
be
both
beautiful,
then.
and it is to be in alignment so that the energy
Ah,
flows properly, right?
all
Because
right.
that's where the conflict really comes from.
So how would I know that there was alignment and that the energy was flowing? I hire you and I don't know anything, and yeah, it looks beautiful, but how would they know? How would they feel? How would they, know that the energy is aligned?
Well, some people are sensitive enough to feel it. As far as, like, I've had clients come to me that say, they just can't ever get comfortable in their space. Like
Mm,
they're always moving, or they're always
yeah.
rearranging their space because they don't feel comfortable, or they don't even want to go in their space. They stand outside their home office, they go stand in their dining room instead and pace back and forth because they don't feel comfortable in their office. So in some cases it can be that drastic, where all of a sudden now you feel comfortable, you're focused, and you can feel at peace and at ease, and now you just want to be in there all the time. that
Yeah.
that is one definite way of knowing. The other way, and on the other side of the coin, is this: your home is sort of is a map to what's going on in the bigger picture in your life as well. So if, for example, in your business you don't have as many clients as you want, or maybe you're not making as much money as you want, or fame, right? You're not as famous. Not enough people are seeing you. You're not making the reach or the impact that you want. You might be in your relationships, your health, somewhere in your life. If there's showing up a struggle, that is going to show up in your space as well. When you get your space back into alignment, because your space is just a reflection of what's going on. It's a reflection of what's going on internally for you, right? As far as what you believe and what you think and how you're feeling, it reflects that. But those things are what also reflect in your pocketbook, right? And in your client roster and all of those things. So all of those things can be seen inside of your home. When you get your home into alignment, then you will see a change in your income, your clients, your reach, your health. That's how I did it, right? It was my health. My health was out of alignment. I shifted my space around on purpose to get the energy to be in alignment and to work as an engine to really help me with the healing process, because that's all magic really is, right? Is just empowering your will with the energy to make it happen. And so I wanted to be healed, and I used my space as a mechanism to do that.
I
That's
can think of the way that I keep my desk. that I work at, if it's messy, I feel like my mind is messy. I feel like I have to, get it organized and straightened out so that I can think clearer. And I think that's what you're talking about with this alignment then. Would that be an example of it?
Yes, yes, that's a very good example, actually. Yeah, everything is all about the alignment of that flow of energy, and it is a reflection. So when your desk is messy, your
Yeah.
thoughts are messy. It's a
Yeah, that's
reflecting
exactly
that.
what it feels like.
It could be that your thoughts are messy, and that's why your desk is
Your desk
chaotic,
is messy.
right? But
Yeah,
it could
either
also be
direction.
that because you've been so focused on one thing and all the mess has happened outside of you, then all of a sudden when you lift your head to move on to the next thing, you can't because you're distracted with all the stuff. So there's
Yeah.
sometimes multiple reasons for the mess and the distraction, but
Yeah.
the solution is definitely the decluttering, the cleaning, the organizing, and the getting back into alignment energetically so that everything is flowing.
Beautiful. And this sounds like, but I'm just going to ask, this sounds like your success rituals or $1 million habits. So maybe you can kind of talk a little bit about those
Um, yeah, mine
or
are.
more about those because you just were
Yeah.
kind of explaining them really.
Yeah. That sort of is my secret $1 million habit is decluttering and cleaning up and organizing your space. Clutter is a reflection of a limiting belief, whether it might be around, usually it's around scarcity, worthiness, or obligation. But being able to declutter those, pull those limiting beliefs and stories out, and along with the physical clutter, not only shifts the energy flow in your space, but it also shifts the beliefs in your body. And so letting go of those allows you to no longer be limited by them. So that's
Love
my
it.
secret. That's my
Yeah.
secret success ritual, is to declutter. I call it declutter your mindset.
Yeah. And so I think there's a lot of buzzwords around mindset,
Mhm.
but I would like to hear your version of what you see or feel or hear what mindset is for you in this context.
For me, it has to do with our thoughts and beliefs, the stories that we are holding on to, the things that we picked up from our childhood, that we believe about ourselves, that are usually so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize they're not a part of us. They're somebody else's stuff that we're just carrying around. And so it's a lot of baggage in there. That, to me, that's what those things are. It's what we believe about what we're worth, which is what triggered it for me. That big episode with the insurance company telling me you're not worth this, and me saying, oh yes I am. Right, there was a lot of worthiness clutter that came up for me, and a lot of those stories from even going back to my childhood.
And as a therapist, this is exactly the same kind of stuff that I look at that as subconscious. We're just not aware of the baggage that we carry around. And I like the way you said it, of somebody else's. And it is, how do we shed that? How do we let go? And I think letting go, somehow gets confusing for people. How would you say that you have found the easiest way or the best way for people to let go of some of this clutter?
Well, I've actually developed a 5-step method to do so.
Okay.
I call it the declutter your mindset method, and it's literally just a 5-step process that I have developed over the years, with walking through that process of letting go, of so that you're not in a repeating cycle, right? Especially with your clutter, because a lot of times what people do with their clutter is, oh, some expert told me to get rid of everything, so I got rid of everything, but I didn't go through this process. And so now, 3 months later, 6 months later, a year later, I've got just as much clutter or more, because I never dealt with that relationship between the inner and the outer part of it. So,
The underlying issue. That's what I always
mm-hmm,
call it. So,
mm-hmm.
all right, beautiful. So, your 5-step process really helps somebody, or that's what you would do with them, I would assume. And I don't want to do that in your designed life method, that's what you do with people if they come to you?
Yes, my design life method actually has four pillar parts to it. It's the design life method, mind, body, soul, home. So we start with that mindset piece because when it comes to feng shui, clutter relates to those limiting beliefs. And when it comes to feng shui, it relates also to what stagnates the flow of the energy in the space. And like I said earlier, you can't apply a remedy like a band aid and expect it to work when the way you're living in the space is what's stagnating it up in the first place. So I always start there and then move into the body part, which is the creating that engine and really, developing how you're going to use your space as a 3D vision board to launch you forward. And then applying the feng shui to it, doing the actual calculations to put you into alignment with your space because you have an energetic frequency and your home has an energetic frequency. And those two things can be clashing or those two things can be in alignment. And so we want to actually do the calculations to make sure that you're in alignment with your space, not just that the energy is flowing properly in the space, but that the two of you are in harmony and in alignment. And then the home pillar, which is decorating to make it beautiful, because we don't want those glaring, here's my big ugly feng shui remedy, because if it's a big ugly remedy, it's not feng shui. It needs to be beautifully enmeshed into the space because that's what flow looks like. And that's how my method works. The design life method is a 4-part piece. And the the declutter your mindset is the very first pillar.
Yeah, that it I would think is a lot
Mhm.
right there for people. I can hear it, sometimes, not a lot of times, but I'll work with hoarders. And there's different types of hoarders. The collector hoarders, I call them that, the walls are just covered with, and it could be art, it could be beautiful kind of things. And then you have the hoarders that keep, trash and it just mounds up. But it's kind of the same. It's that emotional connection that
Mhm.
they have to these things. And so what I'm hearing you, the decluttering, it's got to be the emotional connections to them as well. Is that what
For
you're
sure,
saying?
because those are two very different people. The first one is a
Yes.
scarcity clutter problem, and the second one is a worthiness clutter problem, or maybe an obligation clutter problem. But those are not the same. They are very,
Yeah.
very different. So the clutter that shows up and not just what, but where and how and all of those things, all of them are they're a different relationship with what's going on internally. So it sounds,
Yeah.
yeah, very much. It sounds like we do something similar with how we deal with that. I delve very deeply into looking at what that clutter is because I want to teach them that method so that they then have it as a tool to use for their own healing journey. Because now they can look at their own clutter because it was with you everywhere you go. Or even if
Yep.
you move to a new space, you take all your stuff with you. And so all of
Yep.
your clutter is always there. So it's always a tool that you have to be able to use on your own healing journey. So I like to
That's
teach that to them
right.
so that they are independent and able to really do it on their own time and space because it's so different for everyone, right? Everyone's healing
Yeah.
journey is so unique and none of them are just this linear path.
But
Mhm.
what I hear, mine is so mental health focused, and I think it scares people sometimes. Oh, I have to deal with my feeling, but you're doing it kind of in a sneaky way. I'm going to call it, we're going to make your energy flow. We're going to make your environment beautiful, but you're doing the same kind of work, looking at those inner parts that are part of the clutter to build some skills so you can let go of them. So it's another way to do it. I love that way that you use energy and shifting it to alignment, it sounds like. I
Yeah,
want to go back to something I heard.
I
I
love
just
it
want to
too.
you enjoy it, you can tell. And anybody that does this kind of work, your abilities show up and their skills and their what they create or what you create together. So it's a beautiful synergy between you and your client then and what they create. And then that feels good a
Mhm.
lot of times, doesn't it? Yeah. And I'm sure it does for them
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Oh, no.
Hmm.
I wanted to go back to what you said about your 9-year-old,
Okay.
understanding about energy and
Hmm.
alignment. What happened with your 9-year-old that she understood something that you've
Um,
used?
well, when I was 8, my parents got divorced. And when I was 9, they both of them basically remarried. My
Oh,
mom married a highly abusive pedophile, and my dad married a witch. And so I actually gave my mother an ultimatum at that time, like, it's him or me, you choose. And they're still married to this day. But so I immediately started looking for who else can be my role model. Because if I'm never, I swore I was never going to be like her from that moment on. I was like, I'm never going to be anything like you. And so I immediately started looking for a new role model. And my new stepmom she stepped into that role beautifully. She was a wonderfully loving woman, and as a witch she taught me all sorts of things about magic and
energy.
energy and alignment and healing. And she was into astrology, and all of those are things that are about our alignment too, right? How are we in alignment with the universe and space? And so I started learning about that at 9. And because I had this very dual lifestyle between my two sets of parents, I very much wanted out of one and saw the other as my solace, my safety, my space to go. But because I was learning all of this about like magic and energy and stuff, I was taking that back with me. And I'm sure, I know a lot of little girls do magic spells and magic potions and stuff. Mine was like for real. Like, I want to be out, very much like the little, I don't know why I just had that moment of Forrest Gump when they're like, make me a bird to fly far, far away. The little girl. I
Yeah.
was doing stuff like that, my own spells to try to escape from hell on earth, as it was. But one of my gifts always was space. It was all about creating space. My mother is very much about appearances. So I decorated my room quite a bit. We were encouraged actually to decorate our room. They had to be, look a certain way, but we were allowed. So I was always creating space for myself, like I'm safe here. This is my space.
Yeah.
I'm safe here. And my favorite toy was my Barbie dream house. Like, they always were together, and I was always kind of following that general path. But learning about the magic and energy and alignment and being in sync with the planets and the moon and how all of the world works from such a young age, and understanding that connectedness of how manifesting works, and how, like, then you grow up and hear about law of attraction and all these things. To me, that was so like old news, like it was wonderful to learn about from a young age, and to have it just make my little heart sing back then
That's
too, to have
normal.
to have to believe that it was possible. It
Yeah.
gave me something to hope for, like to build a
Yeah.
dream on, like it's possible.
And it,
So,
like you said, it gave you those two dichotomies, to really work within understanding what you want and what you don't want, and
mm-hmm.
really helps you to focus. And it sounds to me like you used all of that to create your business and this model that can help other people now, like I said, transform their life and their space into something that they really want to be in. And that's wonderful. Oh, and you have an offer for our listeners. I'd love you to tell us a little bit about that, because I think this is something everybody can use. Can you tell us a little bit about the Declutter Your Mind Step set?
Yes, it's a download. It's a printable download that you can get, and it is the 5-step method to decluttering your mindset. And I walk you through the steps from start to finish that will help you to really declutter the physical, mental, and emotional clutter that is holding you back from the vision, from the dream.
Everybody needs that. And this sounds to me like another way to do this. And there's so many different ways. It's like choosing which one do you want to do with your life. If you're ready, if you're really ready, listener, to take some steps. This sounds like something you can do by yourself and see if you can, or they can find you, and we'll make sure we put your website, but maybe you can tell us what that is. How would they find you?
Oh, if they wanted to apply to work with me to design their space, they can apply to work with me at peaceandprosperityalignment.com. If you want to just follow me online or connect with me on social media, crystalhome.com is my website, and I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And then the Declutter Your Mindset free download is at declutteryourmindset.com.
All
And
right.
that one will put them in touch with me as well.
All right, well, good. Well, I encourage everybody to do that. And as we bring this to a close, is there anything else you didn't have a chance to talk about, or something you want to leave us, for the last moments here that we share together?
Goodness, declutter your space, right? Especially if you are feeling stuck. Right now, we have been in this, well, we've really been in this kind of lockdown for a year now, and it's really taken its toll on our mental health. And I've seen it so much in people talking to me from every direction about what their spaces are look like, and how what we're all looking like hoarders at this point. Like, so many people have this very chaotic situation going on in their space. And if that's how it's showing up, do the decluttering, do the declutter your mindsets method, follow the steps through, and it will shift the way you're feeling about being stuck, right? And being in that very overwhelmed place, right, where we are all sort of feeling right now. Releasing that clutter and making room for yourself is
Yeah.
is the best thing you could do for yourself.
Oh,
Show yourself that much love.
That's really beautiful, because I couldn't agree more. I'm seeing the same thing. There's just so much overwhelm and going into depression and bringing out old feelings, and it's something we have buried. And this is exactly a metaphor that you're using here to unbury these things and declutter it, put it in its place, let it go. If you don't need it anymore, use it or don't use it, but let it go if you're not. So there's a lot of great metaphors that you've got here. And that's great. Well, thank you so much, Crystal, for sharing this with me. I
Thank
really, or all of us.
Thank you for having me, Joanne. I've very much have enjoyed being here.
Right, everyone. And I just want to remind my listeners, this is by no means a replacement for therapy or any kind of medical attention. If you need it, please always reach out. If you're ever feeling overwhelmed, there are people standing by at 1-800-273-8255. If you ever want to talk to somebody, there are people that care. And so I want to thank everyone for listening, and please support our podcast by rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Please, to show your support. And remember to use and practice the skills that Crystal shared with you today. These are $1,000,000 skills so that you can bring more joy into your space. Or you can go to anxietysimplified.net for more about how to get a certified emotional support animal or psychiatric service dog today that really can help you feel that reassurance and happiness. So bye for now.